whiteboard, because I'd rather top it if we move it.
It's going.
If that one gets this side, then this can get here. You'll have fun.
You can see the whiteboard good. How about, can we move it to that one?
Not if this is at an angle, it's going to be even harder to see. Because if we move it over there, it's going to be. Look at it right now. You can get the whiteboard.
Yeah, but there's gonna be, you know what I mean, I'm just gonna be very little on the whiteboard, so even if we can get parts, like even this, I can write on this part, if we can get like parts and get more of this.
I guess I can do that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's do this.
There. It
And you
just
know
doesn't
what?
stay on.
Where you
that side.
sit, oh, there's no computer there.
That will work. Okay.
Yeah, that's fun.
Can you have me now? This. Yes, yes, yes. Check, check, check one, check two, check three, huh? Okay, move this down, have these. What else? Yeah, I need to check. You don't have ninja trade on this?
Yeah, we should. You want to use this or
I'll just use one. Hopefully, though, you can use it as backup, you know what I mean? Stuff doesn't happen. Everybody have your name tags, put your name tags up. You can start class. If you don't have a name tag, make yourself a name tag. If you don't have a name tag, make yourself a name tag. Take a marker. Stronger the better. I'll keep it here. So we can see. I saw that.
Take a screenshot. Also, probably
Alex, do me a favor also and check to see if, when we do the broadcast, you can check the workups and the computer and check to see if everything is done. check from the Hangouts on Air for broadcasting. You know, from the steam to see if at the cycle if we're broadcasting.
See that?
What's the address?
It should be, let me show you.
Oh, app. Did you see that? The address.
The site.
Got it.
Go. Let's see if you can. it
Your
should be-
screen is broadcasting right now.
Perfect. Okay, great. But can you hear me?
Yeah. Good.
Okay, good. All right. Folks, welcome back. It's been too long, but we made another week. You remember how we talked about security? What do we need to know about security? We need to have cameras. I should have had cameras. My whole back of my car was just smattered. I don't know if somebody did like a BB gun or something, but the whole back of my windshield, everything is just crumbling down like this. So we always have issues, right? And I think to myself, wouldn't it have been nice to see that camera? But it didn't happen. So we have this streaming at Steam and at the Psycho. We're streaming, that should be done. And then if you can also look at A-Rush's live cast to see if they're here. And we shouldn't be in Blackboard. We should have Blackboard running. Right. I should be logging in. To my Blackboard. Everything takes time. Any questions before I begin? Today's going to be chock full, and I have some helpers here that will tell me around 8:20 what. Go ahead and wrap up. So we'll try to do that to make sure that things are wrapping up. So everything is being seen here. And I should get then, we're BTE KX. So let me put a couple of things for you here. Let's see how far this will go. Just go with me here. Okay. Let's do this. Is this working? It's off, right? Now it's on? Good. Okay. Trudy, you want to do me a favor? Why don't you take the board and I'll give you some things to write. Okay. All right. Trudy's my assistente today. Thank you for volunteering, Trudy. All right. So let's put the date. What's today's date?
25th.
The 25th. So we got that.
Yes.
Yes, we're in a roll. We got Monday, the February 25th, so write that, Monday, February 25th. And including on Monday, the 25th, we also want to put, what are we going to cover? We're going to do 2 parts we're going to cover. We're going to talk about, we have an exam next week. So put exam. Write a little larger, okay, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So exam next week, which is what day? Monday what? March, no, really?
Third. Yeah, the fourth.
March 4th, good. Okay, March 4th. And what are we going to cover then? We're going to have the exam. It's going to cover two parts. It's going to cover chapter 1, chapter 4, chapter 5. It's going to cover also TG1 and TG2. Okay, it will also cover, we'll cover some more, and we'll do a review today. We'll also cover the readings. If I go to the web links, on the web links it'll cover what we had at the very bottom. If you go to web links to the very bottom, it'll cover then the tech trends for 2019, FinTech trends with the questions. How will it change what is FinTech? How will it change the financial industry for the investment of the consumer industry? What is red tech? And how will AI and blockchain change the industry? You don't have to write all those. And then we had another one that we were asked to read, blockchain. Probably the blockchain part, I'm going to leave that for the second part of the second exam. So in those readings, we'll do this. Also, if you go back to course documents, and we're going to go to the PowerPoint. And in the PowerPoint, it's chapter 1. I'm going to make sure that it's downloaded in chapter 1. Hardware we'll download. We'll go over that. Software. Thank you. Security. You can download these now with me. And data.
You said a software one too? Or?
Yes. Did I not? Did you not write that down? The software here, TG1. Right. Did I not download the software? Oh no, we'll see. And then also the automated trading systems, which is right here. Oh, this is not what I want. Sorry, guys. The automated trading systems right here, the PowerPoint. For the exam, you can just put down the exam. For the exam next week, you need to bring a pictured ID. Did you get that, Michelle? Pictured ID. Also bring in pencils, eraser, and pens. There'll be two parts. There'll be multiple choice true false, the first part, and the second part will be open-ended. What we'll do today is we're going to do a review. So could you make it any smaller, Jake? Is this Jack? Could it be any smaller? That's your sense of humor today? Is that it?
Cane card picture ID?
Yeah, try cane card picture ID is the best. Everybody should have a cane ID, right? What else? I think we're set, and then we're gonna go over all the questions. Okay, any questions before we start? We're gonna do the exam, but the exam will be in here. So this way we have a little bit more room. You can take a picture of this at the end. Stubblefield 204. We'll probably go over a little bit of material. I'm gonna do a review today. The exam won't take from 6:30 till 9. It will take less time. So what I'll do in the beginning of the class, I'll do what I call a mini review. So if you have questions, we'll start off at 6:30. And if you have any questions, say, I'm not sure about this. And if, for instance, Trudy, you have a question, and I say, you know what, I'll either explain it or I say, don't worry about that. And if I say, don't worry about it, we don't have to worry about it until after spring break. Okay? So my goal here is for everybody to understand what's happening here. Questions before we begin? Thank you very much. Perfect. And you can take a picture of it, Trudy, so that way you work so hard. Or you can take one afterwards. It doesn't matter. So everybody can lift your pictures, and then you can take a picture of that we can do this. So I put this up here. We went over this set of slides, right, before? Trudy, did we go over this a bit? We went over this a bit, and basically we're talking about a combination of, you'll need to know for the exam is, for instance, the idea of what is fintech and what that does. And also we talked about the automated algorithmic software trading systems. We have to know what an algorithm is, and where we can program an algorithm for software that will be trading, and what we call a soft bot can help us trade. So we need to know for the exam what an algorithm is, a specific set of clearly defined instructions aimed to carry out a task. And the process of automated trading is the process of using computers then to program or to follow a defined set of instructions for placing a trade in order to generate profits. Generating those profits using automated trading programs, we talked about it before. We can do something even called high frequency trading, where the strategies are carried in those positions in terms of not only seconds but fractions of those seconds. And we're looking for triggers to go in and out of the market. This is what you need to know for the exam. You need to know the difference between a strategy and an indicator. So, what's the difference? First of all, if I think about an indicator, what is an indicator? Matt, what do you think an indicator is?
An indicator is basically just something you can look at, and your software can make a decision based off that.
Okay, basically an indicator, we can think about it as a formula. An indicator, we can think about it as a function. Indicators can be what we know in Excel, or they can be even in software platforms. Give me an example, the next Ryan, give me an example of an indicator in Excel.
One of the formulas you use, like the average, sum.
Okay, average, sum, what else? What else did we use in this class? We used, remember the trend lines? We used linear regression, we used what else? We were looking at moving average, what else? Polynomial. Those are all built in. Basically, we think about it, functions or formulas, right? That's an indicator. A strategy, then, is what? Nicole, what do you think a strategy then would be? What's the difference between a strategy and an indicator? Okay, let's think. Brian, did you want to say? What was it? What is a strategy? We need to know this for the exam, right? So who can help me? Noah.
It's something that can actively work well when you put it into place.
Okay. A strategy, put this in your notes, a strategy can buy and sell the equity or the stock. A strategy can be back tested, and a strategy, there will be a buy and sell signal, and the strategy can actually execute the trade. Do you understand that, Michelle? So what's a strategy? Give me an example. So a strategy, what strategy did we use in the class? You remember? Simple moving average. And the simple moving average did what? It told the computer actually did then entering the trade, exiting the trade. And basically, you can put this in your notes, a strategy has logic. A strategy can take one or more indicators, and with the logic, can implement the trade. And the trade can be what? Entering long, entering short, exiting. When we were in Excel, what were we using? This is a good test question. In Excel, we were using A, strategy, B, indicators, C, both strategy and indicators, D, none of the above. Indicators. Excel is a spreadsheet. It doesn't hook to my bank account. It doesn't have strategies built in. Excellent. So that's why we take automated trading strategies. We use platforms, specifically FinTech, does specifically for doing the execution and doing the logic. And if it's a great strategy, you can just sit back, go to the beach, right? Look at your phone and just be happy that it's producing money, right? Or you can go get a job because the strategy didn't work. Okay. All right. You need to know what are the advantages of ATS. ATS stands for Automated Trading Strategies. So what's the advantage? The advantage is what? It doesn't have any emotions, so I don't get overly excited, right? It will follow exactly the algorithm that it is programmed to do. It has the ability to backtest, meaning that I can see, had I used this strategy in the past, before risking my money, how well will it do? It can then also keep the discipline, meaning if we have a very good strategy, I'm not going to get overly excited and say, I see it going down a little bit, let me get out, quick. Or I'm going to stay in, I think it's going to come back. That's why I call it the psycho. It's almost like the psychology of trading. There's an actual psychology of trading, because what does it do? Everybody kind of works in the herd, and basically you see everybody getting overly excited, right, when it's going up and they keep on buying, or everybody, when it starts going down, they start selling. So, and also you can have various strategies that you can go with. The disadvantages is how quickly can you trade? A, very quickly. B, slow. D, not sure. Less quicker than a human. It's basically, in the blink of the eye, you can do millions of trades. So basically, if it does millions of trades, my losses can be more quickly too. If I have it, for instance, also failures of my computers. Remember, we had problems with our computer. If the internet is down, if my cloud has problems, if my computer is down, I'll have those problems. These are good, open-ended questions. Everybody with me? So these trading platforms allow you to do this. You can also broadcast your trades, and where if you get an expert trader, what they call it is mirror trading. What you're going to do is that algorithm trades, so you're going to have your algorithm mimic it, or you'll as a person mimic it. There's something called collective2.com where people can put in their trades and they can sell their strategies and people can follow them. So people make a living just on using those. So, and then what we did, we started talking, and we'll do more after the break, is we started talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning, and the idea is to have the software program improve. Humans help it to improve, and then the software also starts helping and finding patterns for human design. Okay? That's basically that. Everybody with me so far? How are we doing? Good. So this is, I guarantee you we'll see something similar to this on the exam. So we can't think about it, Paul, oh my goodness, I had no idea that we're going to go through it. And we've gone through it many times in different formats. So now what I'm going to do, and you can do it with me, is I'm going to go to NinjaTrader. I'm going to close this. I finished this one. And I'm going to try to go to NinjaTrader. Let me see if I have it here. Let me minimize. Let's see, do I have Ninja here? Here's NinjaTrader 7. Let's see if I can get something. So one of the things that you will see when I get NinjaTrader up, and you can get NinjaTrader up as well, we're going to use 7. I'm going to skip this front screen. And I'm going to close some tips here, and I'm going to even, at this point, I'll just even close my chart. So, what we need to know about NinjaTrader 7, or even this, NinjaTrader then is an example of what? This is a good test question. Is NinjaTrader 7 is an example of what? What? It's basically a trading software platform. NinjaTrader is a trading software platform that, what can you see? You can see indicators, and what else? Strategies. You can hook it up to your account and actually have it trade for you, or you can be in what we call simulation mode. What's simulation mode? Who can tell me? Yes?
It's not real money, it's just like simulating.
We're simulating. We have the actual data feeds, but we're simulating because we're not using actual money. Now, there's an advantage to that, Jerry, in what way? In the way that we're not going to lose all our money in the beginning, right? And there's a way in which we want to be able to test out to see if we have good strategies. But it's interesting, they found out the psychology, people still behave differently when they actually use real money versus simulation. It's like gambling, versus when we're doing play money, we're maybe a little bit more riskier, or maybe in different ways. So you can see that. So put this in your notes. Data is king in technology now. Data is the key, and what we have to do is we have to find the patterns to our data to be able to predict what's happening to our data. So, what I need to do always then is I need to connect to a data feed. I can connect to the data feed tick by tick, or minute, every 3 minutes that it updates, or I can do it at the end of the day. So when I connect, you can see here I have many different kinds. I can connect outerly too. And in this case, I'm going to connect to the end of data feed here. It really doesn't matter. And this is pertinent to this platform. Other platforms have different data feeds. I get the data just like, how am I getting the data? It's like chapter 5. We need to know about the data. The data comes in basically in a feed where I'm going to have the symbol. I'm going to have the open, the close. All of those symbol, open, and close are called what in database terms? You're going to need to know this for the exam. What are they called? It's like in a spreadsheet, my column headings are called what in database terms? You need to know that. The rows are called my records. My column headings are called my fields. Put them in your notes. Fields, like F-I-E-L-D-S. So I have the fields that they're recorded on. Now,
Wait, so what is the symbol open and close named?
fields.
Those are fields?
Field, the symbol, the open, the close. Remember when we went to Yahoo Finance even, Jerry? Remember Yahoo Finance when we downloaded it for Excel?
Yeah.
All those column headings, those are all fields. And basically each row then is going to be a record. So I could have like, basically if I had one stock IBM, I could have it by date. Date was a field.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dates would be the records?
Pardon?
The dates would be the records?
Right, right. The row, just think about it
Yeah.
okay, we're on a roll. So once I have file, I do new, and I do, let me just show you something. I do new chart. Remember, I can do a number of different charts. And you see here I have Dow 30. How many stocks do I have in the Dow 30? This is a trick question. 30, wow. Hopefully the exam's going to be that easy, right? How many stocks are in the Dow 30? Okay, so we're going to do something with the Dow 30 tonight, but let's do the first stock in the Dow 30 looks like what? Apple, right? So I have Apple. I want to check the type to make the type matches my data. Always my data needs to match the type. Here it's going to be my days in, it's going to be 365 days, and it's going to end on 2/25, which is today's date. And now I say okay, and I should get a chart with my data.
Are we gonna have to verbally remember that whole process?
No.
Okay.
My thing is, because later on you use another platform, who cares? For the homework, you need to do it in order to produce it, but I'm not gonna ask you, what are all the steps, and if you miss a step, 2 points off, who cares? You know what I mean? But you need to know, what's the difference, Jerry, between an indicator and a strategy? And what's the difference when I have a strategy versus, and what can I do with the strategy? Cool, right? But whether you go file, whatever, a lot of times when you see it, then you figure it out, and then there's going to be a new when you get out, there'll be a new version. And you remember we did NinjaTrader 7? Well, guess what? There's NinjaTrader 8. I'm starting with 7 because it's just simpler, but 8 we have on our machines too. Okay, so I have my chart here, and I can see the trends, right? And if I had my strategy, right? What strategy did we use? Sample MA crossover, and I have 2 parameters here. I have a fast and I have a slow here. one is 10 and one is 25. And then I want to enable, and the question comes, Simon, what does the 10 and 25 mean? You see here it says fast, 10, slow, 25. Yeah, but what is fast? Who can help them? This is a sample moving average or a simple moving average. So what does the 10 and 25 mean? Matt, you have an idea?
Yeah, it's the number of days for the moving average.
It's the number of days, so I take then that day and then those 10 days, right? And do the average, the next 10 days, the next 10 days. Why is that called fast versus slow, which the slow was 25?
Because 10 days is shorter, so it's faster.
Faster, it'll produce faster, that's all. Do you understand that, Simon? Everything's easy when you know it. Okay? Any questions on that? You'll need to know it.
Wait, I don't get that.
Okay, so basically, if I gave you a simple moving average of two numbers, right? So if I had 4 numbers and the first 2 numbers, right, what would I do? I'd add them together and divide by what to get the average? 2. And the next 2, I'd add up the next 2 and divide what? 2. And keep on getting those averages as it goes through. So it's like a continuous average. Rather than taking 365 days, Jerry, adding them all up, I'm taking them in segments. That's why it's called moving. It's moving as it goes. Now, if I have this, notice I have this and I say, and did I enable it? What do I need to do? I need to enable, I say true. I say okay. What happened? What did I do wrong? Extra credit. What did I do wrong?
You didn't enable it.
What?
Enable's on false.
I need false. I need to do true. Let's see, apply. Okay. Extra credit. Okay. Now, I'm going to change my cursor to crosshairs. And I'm going to go right down here. And Jack, you see this? What does it say?
Let's buy.
Buy. And how much should I buy? Buy 100 at 156, right? I'm going to buy here. And then let me go back here. And what does it say down here with the pink? It says sell short. What does sell short mean? Jack, what does sell short mean? Michelle, what does sell short mean? Get a little bit of help. Diana, what's sell short? Okay. So I'm betting what, Diana? That the stock is going to go what? So put in your notes here, selling short means that I'm betting the stock or the equity or whatever is going to go down. So, Diana, be with me here. So the computer program is telling me to sell short right here. And was it going down? Did it go down? Diana?
From where?
From here? It was going down. So what does this dotted line mean? This dotted green line mean? What does the dotted green line mean? Who can help her?
Profit.
Yeah, profit. So a dotted green line, because was I right on my bet, Diana? I bet it was going down. Did it go down?
Yeah.
Yes. That's all. These two lines And now how can I tell about the performance of how this model did? Put this in your notes. In a strategy, you can back test the strategy to tell how well it did or check the performance of the strategy. So I just right click and I do strategy performance, sample performance, historical and real time, and I want to look at profit per month. This looks all, and I'm going to go down to profit per month. And I see the profit per month. For all trades, it was how much? Anybody see that? How much is all trades? What? It looks like 0.04%. How did my long trades do? Negative. So was this a really good trade? So let me show you this. I'm so excited about this. And Michelle, you're just going to get just thrilled about it. I mean, you're going to just hold yourself in the excitement. So just calm down, okay? I just get so excited about this, okay? So listen to this. I found one stock. How do I, and this is not very good, so what would I have to do to find another stock? I could just go here and type IBM. Just put your cursor anywhere on the chart and just type, and then you get another chart, IBM. And then I would check here, and I'd say, what? Strategy performance. I'd go here and say historical and real time. How did that do? How did this one do? How did this do? Brandon, how did this do? Huh? Okay, so get up and see. You see a lot of red or you see black?
No, yeah, it's red, so it went down about.
It went, so it's not good. So listen to this, Michelle. I checked one Apple, I checked IBM, the Dow 30. Let's check every night those 30 stocks. You want to do that? I don't want to do that. And you don't want to do it either. What do we want to do is we want to have the computer do that. Wouldn't that be a lot better? And then we can go out, party, have a good time, and then we can just take our phone, and if we need to, we can correct it, or we can see what's happening, make sure that our computers are on. But the whole idea here, everybody understand what I want? I want the computer, do you see that, Matt? I want it to do it. I don't want to do the things, and that's why everybody say, oh, the computer's going to take over. A lot of the things the computer takes over, I want it to take over. I don't want to do such tedious jobs. I want to use my mind, and I can be with physicists, I can be with finance people, I can be with mathematicians, I can be with the sector and try to figure out what it's going to be better. But I don't want to sit there and just type each time and just like a little monkey here, go and check, is it red, is it black? No, yes, no, and every night. And just think we're doing it easy. What we're going to be looking at, Matt, is we maybe want to look at it high frequency. Can you imagine? I don't want to be looking at the screen every morning for 8 hours a day, 10 hours just doing that. And is it efficient? No. Can the computer do it a lot better than I can? Yes. So let me show you. This is where we're going to get excited, Michelle. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go back, and you see here all these performance sheets. And what I want to do is I want to go to File. Everybody, look what I'm doing. File, New, Strategy Analyzer. Now, under File, New, Strategy Analyzer, I'm going to go to the Dow. You see all these things in the Dow? And another thing in your notes. We need to know about objects, properties, and methods. Put that in your notes. in object-oriented programming, we need to know objects, properties, and methods. Objects in object-oriented program, you know it, but you just don't know you know it. Objects are things that basically you can think about it, they're things. Things that we can touch. A chart is an object. Let's think about an Excel workbook. An Excel workbook is what? An object. A sheet in an Excel workbook is what? An object. A row is an object. A column is an object. Everybody with me? All those are objects. What properties are is the look and the feel of the object. Properties are the look and the feel of the object. Properties sometimes are called attributes as well. And you've dealt with it all the time. How many people know Word, right? Has ever used Word, right? Tell me in Word, your document is what? Object. When you type something and you change the font size, what is that? Property, right? A method is a verb. A method is to do something to the object. Examples of methods or verbs: copy, paste, cut. Have you seen those before? You're doing a method on an object. How are we doing, Paul? So, given that's the fact, we need to know every time that I explain something, it doesn't matter, Jerry, on whether we're doing NinjaTrader or we're doing Word or we're doing Excel. In programming, that's the case. And usually, how do you get to the, if you click on an object, you basically right-click and get to what? Its properties and its what? Methods. So, everybody with me so far? So I'm at the Dow. So let me move this. I'm at the Dow. And if I right click on the Dow, what do you see? Trudy, you're close up.
You see back test, optimize, and walk forward.
Beautiful. Put this in your notes. When I click on the Dow in the strategy analyzer, I can get back test, optimize, and walk forward. Walk forward is very similar, Alex, in regression that we did to what? Remember we did 5 days forward, I want to predict? That's equivalent. Makes sense, huh? And then optimize, you can put in your notes, optimize, you remember we had those parameters, what were those parameters? 10 and 25? Were they the best parameters to use?
Probably not.
We-
I don't know.
We can give a range, let the computer find, isn't that great, Matt? Let the computer find, optimize, find the best pairing match for, let's say, Apple, and guess what? Maybe IBM will be a different one. So let's do this. How would I then back test? What do you think I need to do, Trudy? You're on a roll. How would I back test the Dow 30? I clicked on the Dow, that's my object,
And you right click the back test.
right? And then I right click the back test, you're on a roll. And then what do I get? I get all the properties here. And notice what the properties are. I have parameters, I have price, I have the type, and in this case, my type is going to change from minute to what? Day, right? And here I have like a month. Here I can do it for a year, I can do it not for a year. I can include my commission and not, and how do I run my back test, you think? Run back test. The beauty here is I do the Dow 30, and I'll show you later, it's so easy, I can make my own instrument list. So you see that, Matt? What I could do then is I could pick, let's say FANG, or I can pick a number of health sector stocks, put them together, and I'll name it, and let it do back test on all those stocks, and let it do continuously, and you can program it. If we just did end of day, guess what? Have it do it every day. Doesn't that make so much more sense? And now what I can do is, you see here where I have percent profitable, I can, the same thing where I have my instruments, I can right click, I can go to grid, and look, what's at the end of the grid? Jack, what's at the end of the grid here? No, right here. Properties. And when I go properties, do you see anything that says profit per month? Is it, am I missing it? Profit per month. So I can put the profit per month there. I can add it. And then look at this. I'm just so excited. Michelle, are you, this is when you're going to get super excited. Hold on to your chair. Watch this. I do profit per month, and now I can see what is the most profitable for this SMA. What's the most, SMA with 1025, what's the most profitable per month? What symbol? Sarah, what symbol?
I can't really see it.
So get up, or look on this one.
CAT.
CIT? And what's the second one? BA?
Yeah.
At 15%. Profit per month, 20%. Is 20%, do you think we can do better in the bank? Putting our money in? Or this? How is 20%? Sounds pretty good. Rather than what? Typing each time. Everybody see that? Rather than typing each time, and then what can I do? Can I bring this into a spreadsheet? What do you think? I have all my trades, I can do this. And now if I want to see my cat, guess what? I go to my chart. Do I see my chart? Yes. And you can see I can see my chart just like I did before. So then can you export this, you think, Matt? Can export it. How would you export it? Basically do what? I can take this and just do what? Grid, export to Excel, and have all of them. Isn't that so much better? Because I asked you to pick a couple of stocks. You see that, Alex? So I can, instead of picking a couple of them, I can do all of this, and then I can automate it every day at the end of the day, make me another sheet, put it in, and then have the computer just go ahead and trade the top 1 or 2, or I can say, give me the top 10. Awesome. That's what we mean by FinTech. So the other part, just so you know, if I do this and I optimize, this is going to be exciting. Let me take my strategy. Which strategy should I take? Sample. MA crossover, and look at this. What's happening there? Nikki, come and look at here. What's happening here?
I'm not sure.
So come over here. You see? Or go over there. Tell me. The first one where it says fast. Read it for me out loud.
Profit
Huh?
and
Right, so it says what? To the left of it, it says what? To the first, it says 10, 10, 1, and then what does it say right underneath it? Right underneath it, what does it say? You can have Jack move, and then you can come over here and look at the screen. Right here. You can read. Yes, you can. Get up. No, come here. Come here with me. I'll take you to be close. Okay. And I'll show you can read. So what does it say after the fast?
Minimum value.
Minimum value. That's it. Wait a minute. What does it say afterwards?
Maximum.
Maximum value. And what does it say after that?
Increment.
Increment. Minimum value, maximum value, and increment. So if you wanted to optimize, stay with me. Nikki, stay with me. If you want to optimize, have the computer, where before said what? 1025. And what can we say? Hey, start at 5, end at 10. So let's change it. Start at 5. These are what? These I'm just going to be changing here. Start at 5, end at 10. By how much should I go up by? The increment is what, Nikki? No, the increment, what does it say here? 1. The increment, so it's going to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the 25, let's say we're going to start at 25. Let's say we'll start at 20. We'll go to, let's say, 50, and in the increment, instead of 1, we'll go to 5. So how will it go? 20 what? 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. Where is it going to stop? 50. Well, how many stocks? And if I do this in optimization, you see that if I change this, 5:10, 1. I could have done the 5 writing it here, but this tells me exactly what to do. Minimum 20, 25, 5. The last, what type of data did I say? End of day. So what should I change this to, Nikki? Day. Right? I'm just going to do these 2 months. And if I'm doing what? I'm trying to do it on the Dow. I'm optimizing the Dow. What should I do now? Run Optimizer. And what's it going to do when I run Optimizer? How many times is it going to go over this? It's going to do how many stocks? Dow 30. How many stocks is it going to do? 30 stocks. And then how many iterations? Before it was doing what? Just 10 and 25. Now it's going to go through those whole ranges, keep on going, and find me the best combination. I don't have to go in with Michelle every night, not only find the best stock, and I say, you start 5, I'll do 6, you do 7, you do 8, 9, 10. And I say, you know what? Let's do something more fun than this. But sometimes I need to do it, I'm showing you manually that you can then appreciate why I'm doing algorithmic trading software, what it is. And that's why it's so neat that they're going to do, the computer does that, but you have to be able to look at this, and now, wow, we're on a roll. So, what do I want? Profit per month? What was the highest now? Jack, what's the highest now? Last column.
Yeah,
60% per month. Pretty good. Which stock? So it's P at, what is that, P? At that point. And what, now this is the key here. We can able to do this, that I know that this one right here, my performance grid, my performance viewer. Let me go to grid, and what do I want to do? First, I want to export to Excel. And then I have the profits, I have the cumulative, I have the total, I have my total profits, profit per month. And then it can tell me also what parameters were the best. And then Michelle and I can go out. But what we have to do is make sure it's doing it correctly. And then it picking those stocks. Everybody with me of what we're doing. So that's where we're trying to get it to be, is much more efficient. So then you can try them out, and then you can start trading, and then you can, what they call tweaking it. And the other thing you're going to need to know is when we start talking about source code, by the way, look at this. We thought we did well before. Remember we wanted to do properties? I want to do properties. I'm going to look for profit per month. Do I have profit per month? Stay with me. Did we get profit per month? Profit per month. So here, that's 60 for the optimizer. This is an exam question right here. Jack, this is a good exam question. I give you this chart. I give you this table. And I tell you, first of all, you have to kind of figure out how is this done. With this chart right here, is this an optimized chart or is this a backtest chart? And how do you know? Everybody understand the question? The question is, I give you in the exam, I give you that chart, that table. And I ask you, one, is this backtesting or is this optimization? And the second thing, after you answer that, I'm going to say, what should I do, what should I invest in, and how do you know? Who can tell me? Sarah?
It's optimization because it says optimizer.
Okay, it says optimizing. What else can tell you? And what is the top profit per month symbol?
So how you know is like parameter. And
Yes, and what else? What's the parameter? 10, it says 1030. What does that mean? 10 what? What does the 1030 mean? Everybody hear the question. That first one says 1030. So the question is, that'll be a nice test question, is what does that 1030 mean? We're using which strategy? The simple moving average. What does the 10 and the 30 represent?
Fast, slow.
The fast and the slow. So that's 1030. The next one is what? The next highest one uses which parameters is the best? 620. Can you imagine doing that manually on your own? Would you want to do it? No. I don't want to waste my time, and we never finish. But look how fast, I just took a long time, but look how fast it would really actually take you. And if you got the computer to actually do it, you just finish up and go eat lunch. or dinner and enjoy yourself. But then you'd always want to do what, Ryan? Is try to tweak it to try to get it better. And then next week, can we assure that we'll always get it? No, the market changes. But do you see how it helps so much? That we went from, you remember those losing ones where we just picked 1025 of Apple? Let it tell me the Dow, and I'm just doing the Dow 30. It can go thousands of ones, but sometimes what people do is they do what? They know a certain industry or certain tech stocks, or for instance, what would I want to do? Is I would just go to here, File, look at this, I go File, Utilities, Import Stock Symbol. Notice I could put my own stock symbols in there. So let's say I want to do FANG. What's FANG? Facebook, right? Amazon. What else? Netflix is what? Let's say, what is Netflix? Let's even say Facebook, and then let's say even I wanted to get a little different. I'd say, hey, I want to do IBM, and I want to do, let's say, Microsoft. And what would I do? I'd say, hey, this is new, and I could give it a name like Tech4. You get that list, and then instead of the Dow 30, you'd have that list. You could create your own symbols, have your own one there, and have it run. Questions? How are we doing? So you see the difference, Jerry? I'm not going to ask you specifically how did you get it, but if I give you a chart here and say then how did you know that was the optimized, and then the idea to be able to do the data, the difference between strategy versus others. And to be able to see that. And later on, if you want to do this as your project, we'll talk about next week our project. If you wanted to get more into fintech, you could then develop and see what would happen on your own strategies like this. And then we'll be doing websites, and we'll also be doing for our project, and we'll also be doing some mobile apps as well. So we'll be having that together. Okay, questions? So I'm just going to cancel this for right now, that I can do it. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then I'm going to go over reviewing everything we need to do for the exam. So I'm going to review the book, everything that'll be there. Let's do just a 5-minute break, and then I should be able, Diana, right, we should be able to do this in, I think, a half hour. We should be able to do a review for all of it together. Okay? So let's do this, just stretch. And then we'll come back in 5 minutes, and then we'll continue. And then you can play around. So what do you think, Matt?
All good. Easy once you know it.
No, but isn't that amazing? It's just, to me, that is so incredible, the amount of time that you don't have to do the busy work, and you can start thinking and let it start optimizing. And you remember when we did the simple moving averages, right? When you had all those parameters, you can set those parameters and you can see from 5 to 10 to 20 and so forth. So what's the issue? Right?
That's fair.
Right? And you don't want it and I don't want it, right? You remember the need to know? Yeah. That's a perfect need to know. I need to know, you need to know, no one else needs to know. It's a perfect security question, right? Give me an example of a need to know. Okay. Great. Okay. So what you could do then, Alex, is all of this. Then you could then just create types of. Think about it. You just automate it.
Yeah.
Every morning, then, let's say you were going to be doing it every evening. You could just even post it for people.
Yeah.
And then you say, hey, this is what it's trading. Anybody want a difference? And then you could get from all over the world. People say, hey, you know what? But you know, that China deal today I know Trump is going to Vietnam, gonna talk to the Koreans. I think we should really start looking at some of those sectors. It's gonna take a boost, right, of those caterpillars, you know, it's really gonna do well now. They're gonna be able, the farmers are gonna do well, or whatever kind of things that are happening, then you can change it. You also can even put it in the ways in which you can give the key words to even read the news and make sense out of the news. So give you that way, you can even do, basically you can look at, you know, the tweets. Look at the sentiments of the tweets happen.
How do they do that?
What?
How would they do that?
Basically in trending looking, there's even something called stock twits.
Would you have to program it to say like, oh, if you see this word, that means bad? That's
Start doing it, and then not even that, you start, then the machine would start learning from it. Go ahead and see when certain words are happening, you could start, in the beginning, you start highlighting it, and then it will start finding patterns. You know, when people are hesitating, a lot of times there may be euphemisms. You know, people don't say bad.
Yeah, of course.
Right, there may be a euphemism, or, you know, almost signals from the Fed. You know, or looking at footnotes, certain footnotes, people want to bury them in certain footnotes. So you start, you have people in the industry, and then you give it a number one, and the ones which it would be interesting is, you know the end result, so you train the machine. And so when these words were being done, or this was the scenario, this is what happens, and then the computer program starts learning, and it becomes, basically, that's why they're thinking even in journalism, the computer starts writing stories.
I just have no idea how these things work.
But in linguistics, there's a whole area just of linguistics. People using computer science and linguistics together. It's invaluable, you know. And then you can think about in linguistics, you can think about it, you know. And then you combine that with areas in which you look at analyst results. You know, there's like insider trading.
Yeah.
But you can spot those. The computer basically spots those when they see a lot of volume here, and then and then I go back and say, what was it about those days that all of a sudden they're taking so pop, right? So you knew there were certain people that told their friends and their relatives, you know, and if they don't do it, usually they can get away with it if they're not so greedy. And sometimes when it becomes so greedy, then they get, you know, that greed takes people away, or when they have. Questions before I begin? There's one more thing that I wanted to share with you before we go on to the book, and that is, you remember we talked about indicator and strategy and the source code?
That's a funny question. I just wanted to ask you that.
Okay. What do you see up on the board here? This is another example that can be an open-ended question. You're given this. This is called what? First of all, source code. You're given this source code. And when you read this source code, Jerry, when I read this source code and I ask you lines 1 through 4, what do they mean?
Which one?
What did I say, Nicole?
The 2 dashes.
What? Lines 1 through 4, if I give you this source code for the exam, and I get what is happening in lines 1 through 4. Ryan?
If it's just copywriting, it gives you the website and it reserves the right to modify
Okay,
it.
and what are they called? Lines 1 through 4 are called what?
Comments.
In source code, what is lines 1 through 4 called? It's source code, and what are they called? What's the beginning of those lines called? What do you see?
There's comments.
They're comments, right? And how do you differentiate in source code, in this language, how do you differentiate comments? Comments mean only human beings, only for the humans to read. The computer program ignores it. The computer program doesn't even care. It doesn't want to understand it. It's only for us mortal humans. And how does it know that it's for the computer? How does it know to disregard it?
Slashes.
The slashes. Those backslashes there, you can put in your notes there, those backslashes there mean that they're for human consumption only. They're called comments. So everywhere where it's the beginning of comments, so when you want to go to source code and put in your information, like Jerry Friedman, right, the date and so forth, you'll start those lines with what? Those 2 slashes, those backslashes.
Also, is the gray one the same thing? When it says summary with the 3 slashes, is that also commentary?
Yes.
Okay.
The 2, they just basically, it's indented. Perfect. Okay? Now here, on line 20, of course, it says what? That it's a strategy, right? And what I could ask you then is on line 38 and 39, on line 38, the strategy is called what? SMA. And in this one, it's what? Fast. And what's the what color is it going to make for that SMA moving average? What color will it be? Orange. And the fast, the slow moving average will be green. The question I can ask you then, Jack, do you know what the values of fast and slow are there? Everybody understand the question I asked Jack? Simon, did you understand the question?
Yeah,
What was the question?
like what the values are for slow and fast.
Yes. Can you see by that?
I see
You don't see them. Because where did we put them? They were in our properties, right? They can be changed. They can vary, right, Paul? They can vary, so they didn't what we call hard-coded. Remember that we could say that optimize, we could tell it to begin at what, 5, end at 20, begin at fast, to begin at 5, go to 10, and increment of 1. And the other one could be what? 25 to 50, incrementing by 5. This tells me, and then I could ask you what orange and green represent. A, properties, B, methods, C, objects, D, all of the above, E, none of the above.
Properties.
Properties. And what's the object? The object is color. The color, what properties does color take on? Green, blue. Doesn't it all make sense now? That's all there is when you think about it of object-oriented. That you think about it, and what are you doing? You're having a plot, right? And the pen of the color, you can just change it. You can change it here to orange. They give you the default. You could write dark green or dark orange, or what? You picked it out from the list. From your what? Properties list. And now you want to add the fast and the slow. This could be calculate on bar close. It could be either true or what's the other value it could take on? False. And now if I asked you, given that I just give you this part of the code, if I give you this part of the code, Jack, you with me? Now your name's so in life, right? If I give you this part of the code, and I ask you, is this going to be a strategy or an indicator? Everybody understand the question I would ask you? Given lines, you only see lines 40 through lines 55. How many people think this is an indicator? And why is it a strategy? It's saying enter long, and it's saying enter short, and it's giving me logic. Where is the logic? From lines 50, what is that, 51 through 54? That's the logic. And it's basically saying to the computer what? Bet on if one crosses above, if the fast crosses above the slow line, moving average, what should I do? I should then make a bar. Enter a long. Else if it goes below, I'm betting what, Diana? When it enters short? It's going down. And if I find in another area that I could ask you, if I find my performance is not doing well, betting short, what should I do? How would you modify the code? Everybody understand the question? No, do you understand the question? If I gave you a table and I told you, and you saw that shorts were not doing well, they were losing, and you basically, Alex here is your programmer, right? And he says, you know, I'm busy tonight. And he said, why don't you fix the code? There's only 2 lines of code there. Right? And Alex said, listen, I'm busy. I have a test tomorrow. And it's not worth my time. I charge $500 an hour. I don't even write, because he's a quant programmer. He's starting just, his beginning salary is just $250K plus commissions, right? So he says, go ahead and do it. What would you do? You could comment out some of those lines of code. How would you comment it out? You could put slashes in there, 2 slashes. And which part would you comment out? The what? Which 2 lines?
54 and 55.
Yep. Else if, right? You don't want an else if, because we didn't want to do the enter shorts. Now later on, what you'll see is now they're having the machines write the code too, Alex. Now they're having the machine say, you're giving it you're giving it the strategies of what you want in words, and it writes the code. That would be a question on strategy. Everybody got it? I wouldn't ask you, Jerry, from the start, go write this. This is not a computer science class that I'm going to ask you to write the code. But later on, you can see, those of you that want to do it, you can basically, they have built into here what they call a wizard. You put in the inputs, Matt, you put in the inputs you want, you create your strategy, and it writes the code. I'll show it to you later on that once we know what the strategy is, we can kind of figure out what we want to do, and it will write the code. Later on, it'll write basic code, right? That if I want it really to be good, then I can give it to Alex, and I said, you know, Alex, this is the beginning part, and now tweak it. And he doesn't have to bother with the simple part. He doesn't have to bother writing the SMA, right, and all the plots. He'll do the more difficult part. So it'll make his job a lot more interesting as well, and that's why we're gonna pay him the starting $250K, because we want him to do the really brainy work, not the ones that a computer program can do. Everybody with me? So how are we doing? So that'll be some of the open-ended questions.
How many multiple choice would it be?
There'll be maybe 70, 80. I guarantee you it won't, because you won't have enough time. That won't be the issue. Everyone will finish on time. Okay, so I'm going to close this. But what I could do, now that you see it, that you're really bored here, I could then change this sheet to what? I could then change this sheet to optimize, give it the date, and just call it Dow 30. And now I finish the homework rather than spending, if I ask you to go find 10 stocks, let it optimize and find it. Let it backtest and find it. I'm better than you start hunting around. Okay. What else? So this is this, why should I study information systems and things like that, is I would spend less time on the chapter 1, really, in terms of it. The one thing that you should know is the difference between data, information, and knowledge. You should know the difference between data, information, and knowledge. IT infrastructure consists of IT components, IT personnel, and IT services. You can have questions about this, of data kind of like starts it, and then I have the information that starts getting it organized, and then I have a higher level going into knowledge. IT components, we talked about it. You'll need to know the difference between hardware, software, databases, network, the procedures that you need to do to accomplish a task. And we've seen issues here, good and bad, or good and issues with people, right? People, you can see in the class, are helping me all the time with information systems that we're having problems putting up the cameras, taking them down, making sure that the feeds are going through. I have people issues in the ways in which they said they installed software, they didn't. We have to learn how to follow up, go the second time, the third time, find out how to document information that we have. So we've done that before. And the capabilities, there are functional areas. You need to know the functional areas of accounting, finance, production, marketing, HR. It's almost like, if you think about it, the departments in the School of Business are basically functional areas in the information systems. So enterprise resource planning systems, you need to know what an enterprise is. It's the entire organization, and within the entire organization, you're going to be dividing it up with accounting, finance, production, marketing, and human resources. So you need to know what an ERP is. What's a transaction processing system? Basically, transactions are like you're going to Publix and they're just going in the cashier and scanning your products. Each of those are transactions, collecting that data, and supplies. Okay? We talked about the idea of defining what's big data. You need to know the characteristics of big data. We talked already about object-oriented programming. You need to know what an object, a method, and a property is. You need to know these definitions. You need to know what's a threat, what's an exposure, and what's the vulnerability, and what are the differences. Factors contributing to vulnerabilities. You need to know about unintentional threats, by human errors. We talked about social engineering, right, before. These security threats, basically coming from within, threats coming through the internet, threats coming through the network. So they're coming from other insiders, they're coming from hardware threats. Yeah. And we talked about deliberate threats. You need to know the differences on software threats. You need to know the difference between a virus and a worm, what's a phishing attack, and what's spear phishing attacks. Should be in your book, and if not, what do? Look it up. You need to know the difference between a denial of service attack and a distributed denial of service attack. What's the difference? Alex, what's the difference between a denial of service attack and a distributed denial of service attack?
I'm not sure.
Okay, look it up. Who can tell me the difference between a denial? It's called DOS, and the other one is called then DDoS. So what is it, Alex?
It's a DOS is using one computer and one internet connection, where a DDoS is multiple computers and internet connections.
Distributed. So it's going to be distributed wrong. What's going to be more costly? What's going to be basically harder to protect? The distributed one. And those are the ones that are going towards, governments, right? All the time they're trying to find back doors. They're trying to attack, or under major corporations, right? Google. You think nobody wants to take down Google or take down Amazon? They try all the time, right, to be able to do that. So distributors, I'm going to be doing it on multiple computers. And what can I do, Alex, is this university is a great place to do distributed denial of service attacks. Because what I can do is, what is everybody coming in through? Alex, how do they
Wi-Fi.
the Wi-Fi and what else? The university's network. You're going through the university's network. So if I can get everybody that's on the university's network, put some software malicious bots on everybody's laptop. Have your laptops. Let's think about here. We've got 40 people here, 45. How many students do we got on the campus? Let's say 10,000. Basically, let's even take half of them. And we can use each of those, Alex, each of their computers. I can use your computer to do havoc on other people's computers, and you're not even aware of it. Because I take so little part of RAM here. Are you always computing? No. It's kind of sitting idle, but you're what? You're on the network. So if I can do that, that's what they love universities. They don't love universities. What are they going to do? Steal my PowerPoints? Let them take them. You know what I mean? What do I have so valuable there? You know? But the idea, if I can actually use everybody's, look at it, I can use the lab. And the lab, guess what? It sits here idly a lot of times of the day. Just hook onto the network, get it on, and do it in stealth mode. You don't know what's happening in the background. You don't see all the time. Sometimes you see it's a little bit slow. Have you ever seen a little bit? Sometimes your computer's a little bit slow. You don't know what's happening. You don't know if you got spam, you got spamware, adware, whatever kind of ware you get there. You can go through it. Know these. Trojan horse, a backdoor, a logic bomb. It's basically ways in which software tries to infiltrate the system and do damage, either maliciously or just for the heck of it. Sometimes what they do is they do it just almost, you think they do it for the heck of it, but they're just kind of seeing where, have you ever seen somebody casing your joint, right? They just want to see where is the window, and maybe they'll come back next week. Now I see your back door is open. You don't lock it. I've seen the whole week you don't lock your back door. So these are kind of the ways where I'm going to have those adware and spywares doing it. This is what you need to know, folks. You need to know what a risk is, and basically we want to minimize those risks. I want to do analysis. And my job here is I'm never going to be 100% risk-free, but either I'll transfer my risk, I'll accept part of my risk is just doing business, and I'll try to limit my risk. I don't want to be, I don't want to leave my doors open. I don't want to show everybody what I have. I don't want to show everybody when I'm home and when I'm not. I don't want to put on the internet when I'm going on vacation. Right? And by the way, I won't be here next week, and the back door I always keep open. We talked about controls, so what do you want to do? I'm going to have risk, somebody's going to come in, so I'm going to create controls. Just like physical controls, just like I say. We lock the doors. Remember last time we talked about the idea we're having spring break come in after the exams, right? We hope to see what? That somebody put in the schedule there shouldn't be people here. They shouldn't be leaving 317 Memorial open for years in advance. So it's the same thing. Who gets access? You need this, BCP, business continuity planning. What does that mean? Why do I need it? Who can tell me why I need it? Because I know that stuff happens. I know outside of my control, there can be a hurricane, there can be an earthquake. I can be down, and what do I want to do? If I'm in business, I want to be able to continue doing business. So what's my plan? I got a hurricane, I have to be out for a month. Do I have any plans? I'm going to be afraid, hey, my students are going to go somewhere else. They need to graduate. They're not going to wait around. If I'm Amazon or any other online person, I need to have it. So these are physical controls, you can go through it yourself. These are access controls. Know the difference between the two? Authentication and authorization. These are the characteristics of authentication. You know about passwords. And then communication controls. I need to encrypt. You need to know what a VPN is. It's going to be private, it's going to be a tunnel, we're not using all the things. You have to know what a SSL is. Where do you see SSL before? It's basically if I go onto the internet and you go into, did you go into Blackboard? What was the website called? What were the first letters of the website for Blackboard? Go to Blackboard. Everybody go to Blackboard with me. Right? What is here? Look at up here. HTTPS. H stands for Hyper Text Transfer Protocol. It's the method in which we use rules and regulations to surf the web or traverse the web. The S stands for what? Secure socket layer. See that Stone? Stone, you're so far away. In the other class you were close. Oh, you're far away. So Stone, so the S stands for secure socket layer. So if you're going to put in your credit card, you want to look above and see that it says not HTTP, because that your credit card then would move in plain text. That means the text is not encrypted. Software. We've looked at software quite a bit today, right? NinjaTrader, trading platform. Is software? A, software. B, hardware. D, C, both. D, none of the above. Software, right? And what kind of software? Is it application software or operating system software? Application. It's an application that we're going to be using for each one. You need to know this slide, what it means. So you have hardware in the middle, then you have system software and application software. And you need to know the difference, Paul, between system software and application software. What's the difference? Who can tell me? Yes. Right. It's always the basic. Give me an example of system software.
Mac OS.
Mac OS. What else? Windows. What does Google have? Does Google have an operating system? Android, and what else? What browser does Google have? Chrome. So it's also their operating system. So we have system software, application software, and hardware. So we talked about open systems. We talked about open source software, so that you can change it. Now, that SMA, that sample moving average, that was open source, right? We could see it. We could modify it. That was open source. How much does open source cost?
No, it's free.
Not free. Gratis. Okay? So these are the ideas. You need to know application software. That's this one. What else am I missing? 5. Let's go under 5. Let's go data. This is important. Data, data, data. So data knowledge, I told you. Know the difference between a data warehouse and a data mart. Know the approaches of big data, the characteristics. We talked about the idea of what? Data governance. You need to know what data governance is. What's data governance and who cares? Data governance is who's going to be responsible for the data. So basically, if you're in healthcare, you go to the health center. Who's ever been to the health center? You go to the health center. You have data at the health center? Yes. Somebody has to be governing to decide what? How are they going to take care of your health data? They just now had a breach of a health provider, and how did it find they were fined millions of dollars? Why? Because somebody Googled their name. You know, has anybody ever, you Google your own name and see what happens? They Googled their name and they found all their private health information online from a hospital. Hey, wait a minute, hold on. So we need to know about what data governance is. You need to know about managing it. We want to keep it up to date. The data hierarchy, you need to know that. You also have to know their database management system. There's a way in which the data, I don't want it to be redundant. I don't want it to duplicate all the time. We talked about a file system. I don't want my address 50 times throughout the university, right? It needs to be once. If it's once or twice, that's okay. But if I move, what's the problem with data redundancy? Data isolation is that no one else can find certain information. I talked about the idea, if you want, I'm looking for somebody with a scholarship. I'm looking with somebody that's a student athlete, Hispanic, is a business student, has higher GPA than 3.5. If it's data isolation, I can't find that person. And I have to make sure that that data is independent, that I can rely on that data and it's secure. You need to know this. Remember we talked about a field? So if I showed you a spreadsheet, Jerry, and I said, on this spreadsheet, find me where the fields are, it would be the columns, right? Find me the records, it would be what? The rows, and where's the table? The table would be like one sheet, right? And then I could have a number of sheets together, they would make up a database. I need to know, in this case, what a primary key is. A primary key is a searchable key that's unique. So, for instance, the primary key last name here at the university. Good test question. Is the primary key in a student database last name?
No,
True or false? Why?
because multiple people have the same last name.
Right. Gonzalez, Rodriguez, right? In Miami, we can find a lot, right? First name, no. But in this case, what would be a primary key then, Sarah?
C number?
C number. It's unique. Why don't they use social? Everybody understand what my question is? Good question. Data governance. Why don't they use social security number? How many people have a social security number? I don't know. I don't want to know your number, but how many people have it, okay? Does everybody have one in the class? No. That's one reason. Another reason is it's going to be more, susceptible. It's going to be with you for your entire life. Your C number is what? Just unique. Nobody, other than the university, nobody else is going to accept it, you know. When you go and work somewhere else, somebody's not going to say outside the university, they're not going to say, what's your C number? Irrelevant. So they make a number that's unique for here. Beautiful. An attribute. You see that? An attribute. What's another name for attribute? From what we were using in object-oriented programming, Paul. What's another name for attribute? Right? And we know what an attributes are. So notice they're giving you a student database example. What are they doing? Columns are what? Jerry Fields. Rows are records. No big shakes. Okay, then you need to know big data. How do you define big data? How do you manage big data? What's a great example? Great question. How is automated trading systems an example of using big data? Is it? Of course it is, right? Can I find patterns? Yes. Is it going to be basically descriptions of my data? Is it high volume? Is it high velocity? It fits all those. Can I make enhanced decision making? Can I do discovery? Can I process? Look at this. Magic, it talks about optimization. You see that last word? Right? We can optimize. Right? So you can do the variety. So this is it, defining your big data. And those are the characteristics. You'll probably be asked that. The volume, the velocity, and the variety. Issues. What does it mean that it gets dirty? Goes in the mud? What does it do? What does dirty data mean? Tells bad jokes? What is dirty data? Big data is dirty.
Just a lot of it. May not be neatly organized.
One neatly organized, dirty data may not be exact. There may not be as much. There may be missing records, missing fields. Confusion. You think somebody's always doing it. You think all the data's up to date, right? You change data's dirty. Basically, if I look 5 years, I want to find my alumni, right? Do I know what their present address is? Do I know where they're working? They change, right? Their names change. Somebody may have put in wrong information. Somebody may have been married. They may be divorced, whatever. So, we'll talk about later on about traditional databases. Put this in your notes. The language, I didn't mention it before, but the language that databases use their queries, a query, Q-U-E-R-Y. A query is asking questions to a database. Find me all those stocks that their profit per month is greater than 6%. I can make that query many times in using what they call structured query language. Traditional databases use the language called SQL, structured query language. It is an old database language. Now they have something called NoSQL, and what do they add on to that? Video. Many years ago, video wasn't so prevalent, right, on the internet. Now we've got to figure out how are you going to basically find videos, right? How are you going to keep up with videos? Putting big data to use. This is something that I want to go over. You're going to need to know this. A data warehouse and a data mart. Put this in your notes. Both of these use historical data. A data warehouse and data marts are usually done with historical data, and they're usually done traditionally have been done in large organizations. That's changing a bit because you think about a data warehouse, you think about a warehouse, you think about a physical building. But guess what? A data warehouse can just be in a computer. Now, it can be residing where? In the cloud or on premise. So that's changing a bit, where traditionally a data warehouse was only used for large organizations. That's changing. So what do? When I want to make insights about my data, I want to figure out the patterns to my data. They just say, instead of saying I'm going to put it in the database, they say I'm going to put it in the data warehouse, meaning that it's historical and I can do different hypothesis testings on it. A data mart is a subsection. A data mart, put that in your notes, is like a project within a data warehouse. So a data mart could be, find me all those students coming from New Jersey that were very successful alumni. And find me all those and try to figure out what are the characteristics that kids from New Jersey, we can recruit them more. Or in this case, maybe in China, I want to do some recruiting. What types of students should I look for that were successful when they did? So I can even do some studies, or I can do some other studies as what types of students didn't I retain here? Was it the very, very smart students? where those students that didn't get enough attention, sometimes I'm concerned that I don't give you enough attention. So if you need attention, please come up afterwards, okay? So we got data warehouse, which is historical, data mart. We can think about subsection, we talked about this. And this is those frameworks and all this, isn't this like overwhelming? All those cylinders, you can put those in your notes. Everywhere that you see a cylinder here is a database. That's the symbol in computerese graphics for a database. It looks so complicated, but it isn't. And basically they're going through the operation of, I have data, I have to clean that data, I have to figure out where I'm going to put that data, and eventually I'm going to try to make sense out of it and give it to the people that can make better decisions, and give people in my organization information that they need to have in order to do better decisions. I don't want to inundate more people with more data. Who wants more data? No one. What they want is, give me factual data that I can rely on, that I can make better decisions upon. Got it? Okay. Then I have within the data mart, I can use different analytical processing. Anybody ever use pivot tables in Excel? Pivot tables in Excel are online analytical processing. What does that mean? Tableau. Anybody used Tableau before? Tableau is basically thinking about online analytical processing. That's all that it is there. And what am I thinking about? I'm going to deal with ways in which to do it. What else? Metadata is data that describes my data. So it may say calls, it may say the country that it resided from, but it doesn't give me specifically Trudy called her mother. All I know is Trudy was in Coral Gables at this time, and there was a call made to somewhere else. So these are areas in which I have metadata. Metadata sometimes is used also for searching. What else? This is a relational database. Basically, they're what, Jerry? They're tables in a spreadsheet. You can think about that, right? Rows and records. That's all I have. And then I can make them like cubes. And it's basically like online analytics. That's all it is. You need to know knowledge. And this is not easy in a large organization. How do I even capture that knowledge? How do I create that knowledge? How do I store it? How do I give it to people? What's the knowledge is for instance, maybe travel restrictions. How to fill out a travel form. I'm not going to go over this, but see that query language comes from SQL. And I'm not going to bother with this. Okay? Let me just escape here. What else am I missing?
That was all.
Huh?
I think that was all.
Yeah, and then the hardware, right? And hardware, what do we need to know about hardware? Hardware does what? I know that the price of hardware goes what? Up or down? Down, right? And it's going to be, and basically there's Moore's Law. You got to know what Moore's Law is. Used to work for Intel, basically telling me that it's going to be increasing so much per some certain number of a month. So you need to know Moore's Law. I need to know the differences then between a CPU, right? That arithmetic logic unit. What else did we, I think basically we went over that chapter before, didn't we? Basically. So, on 1 minute, Diana, how am I doing? Finito. Wrap it up. You're supposed to do this. She forgot. So you're supposed to do is wrap it up. What else? So where are we meeting? Here. We need to bring what? Take a picture of this. I'll do a mini review before we start the exam, before I give out the exams. Remember how I always say help your neighbor? Next week we're not helping our neighbor. I'm not going to tell you to text your neighbor next week during the exam. Usually I collect the phones. Stay with me, please. Brendan, we're okay? I think we're getting more of a feel for it, right? If you have any concerns whatsoever, please, 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 I'd love to help you. Or get you in the right direction and we'll help each other. Because what I want to do is finish with this and then work on our projects for the rest of the semester. I'll talk about our projects next week before we take the exam, but then we're going to do fun stuff that you want to do for your projects. You understand? And get really into depth. This first part, I want to make sure that everybody has all the terminology that we can think about when we have guest speakers, that we don't look like they can pull the wool over our eyes. And thank you so much, Trudy. You did an excellent job for helping me.
I have a question.
Sure.
So talking about the content for the textbook, what we need to know is like applying to the PowerPoints, or do we need to know like the stuff that wasn't on the PowerPoints as well? Like,
I would do this. First of all, I would go over the quizzes. I would go over the PowerPoints. And then, there's so many parts in the day. And then I would go over the glossaries in the book to make sure that I understand. Right. But my main thing here is and there may be some things that are like applied. You know what I mean? And data, knowledge, and information. Give me a little scenario, which one's data, which one's, so you understand the concepts and you can figure out how it's applied. That part, and then the second part, you know what it is. Those types of questions that we went over. The FinTech questions, the source code, things like that, strategy, that everybody can kind of feel, and then we can